The room was silent, except for the faint hum of alien machinery. Daniel Carter sat stiffly in his chair, his hands gripping the armrests so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Across from him, Rachel Monroe shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting between the towering, otherworldly figures seated around the circular table. They were in a chamber aboard the Elysium, the flagship of the Galactic Concord, an alliance of advanced civilizations spanning the stars. Humanity had been invited to join this prestigious group after decades of searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. But now, as the meeting unfolded, it became clear that something was terribly wrong. The leader of the council, a tall, insect-like being named Vorthak, stood at the center of the room. His voice echoed through the chamber, cold and mechanical. After careful consideration, the Galactic Concord has reached a decision regarding Earth's application for membership. He paused, his multiple eyes scanning the humans with an unsettling lack of emotion. Earth will not be admitted into the Concord. Rachel leaned forward, her face pale but determined. "Why?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside her. "We've done everything you asked. We've shared our knowledge, opened our planet to inspection, and proven our willingness to cooperate. What more do you want?" Vorthak's mandibles clicked softly, a sound that sent shivers down Daniel's spine. "Your species is too primitive," he said bluntly. "Your technology is rudimentary, your society fragmented. You are not ready to stand among the stars." Daniel clenched his jaw, anger simmering beneath the surface. "Then why bring us here? Why give us hope if you never intended to let us join?" A murmur rippled through the chamber as another council member, a sleek, amphibious creature with shimmering skin, spoke up. "Hope was never part of the equation," it said smoothly. "You misunderstand our purpose. This meeting was not about inclusion. It was about classification." "Classification," Rachel repeated, confusion evident in her tone. Vorthak nodded. "Earth has been designated as a resource world. Its resources, and its population, will serve the needs of the Concord. Resistance is futile." The words hit Daniel like a punch to the gut. He stared at the council members, unable to believe what he was hearing. "You're talking about enslavement," he said, his voice low and trembling with rage. "You can't just take our planet. We're not some prize to be claimed." The chamber erupted in laughter, cruel and mocking. The council members exchanged amused glances, clearly unimpressed by Daniel's outburst. "Enslavement is a harsh word," Vorthak replied, his tone dismissive. "Consider it integration. Your people will contribute to the greater good of the galaxy. In time, you may even come to appreciate your new role." Rachel stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "No," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the laughter. "You don't get to decide our fate. We won't let you do this." Vorthak tilted his head, studying her with detached curiosity. "And how do you propose to stop us?" he asked. "Your weapons are inferior. Your ships are slow. Your strategies are predictable. You are no match for the Concord." As the laughter resumed, Daniel grabbed Rachel's arm and pulled her toward the exit. There was nothing more to say. The council had made its decision, and arguing further would only waste precious time. Once they were outside the chamber, Rachel turned to him, tears brimming in her eyes. "What do we do now?" she whispered. Daniel took a deep breath, his mind racing. "We fight," he said simply. "They think we're weak, but they don't know us. They don't understand what humanity is capable of when pushed to the brink. We'll show them." Rachel nodded, determination replacing her despair. Together, they stepped onto the transport shuttle that would take them back to Earth. Neither of them spoke during the journey, but their thoughts were the same. The galaxy had declared war on humanity, and humanity would not go down without a fight. By the time Daniel and Rachel returned to Earth, news of the Galactic Concord's decision had already spread like wildfire. The transmission from the Elysium had been intercepted by amateur radio operators, and within hours, the entire planet knew what was coming. Panic gripped nations as people flooded the streets, demanding answers from their leaders. Cities buzzed with protests, while others descended into chaos as looters took advantage of the confusion. In a small underground lab in Colorado, Ethan Brooks sat hunched over a workbench, surrounded by wires, circuits, and half-finished prototypes. A former Marine-turned-engineer, Ethan had spent years tinkering with experimental weapon systems in his spare time. Now those hobbies might be humanity's only hope. Across the room, Samantha Lee adjusted her glasses and scribbled notes on a clipboard. She was a scientist who specialized in quantum mechanics, and though she'd always preferred research over combat, even she couldn't ignore the urgency of the situation. "We don't have much time," Ethan muttered, tightening a bolt on one of his devices. "If those aliens are serious about enslaving us, they'll strike soon." Samantha nodded but didn't look up from her notes. "They underestimated us once before," she said calmly. "Let's make sure they regret it this time." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of footsteps echoing down the corridor. Moments later, President Olivia Grant entered the lab, flanked by 2 security guards. Her face was pale but resolute, and her eyes scanned the cluttered workspace with quiet admiration. "Dr. Lee, Mr. Brooks," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "I need your help. All of humanity needs your help." Ethan straightened up, wiping grease-stained hands on his jeans. "Ma'am," he said respectfully, "we're doing everything we can, but we're just 2 people. We can't fight an entire galactic army alone." Olivia stepped closer, her expression softening slightly. "You won't be alone," she assured him. "Every nation on Earth has agreed to unite under one banner. Factories are being repurposed to build ships and weapons. Civilians are volunteering to serve. For the first time in history, humanity is standing together." Samantha set her clipboard aside and crossed her arms. "That's encouraging," she admitted, "but unity isn't enough. We're still outmatched technologically. If we want any chance of survival, we'll need something extraordinary." Ethan gestured to the device on his workbench, a bulky contraption that looked more like a science fair project than a weapon. "This is my best shot," he explained. "It's an energy shield generator. If I'm right, it could neutralize alien plasma cannons, but I haven't had time to test it properly." Olivia studied the machine for a moment, then turned back to Ethan and Samantha. "Then you'd better start testing," she said firmly, "because if we don't stop them, there won't be a second chance." Over the next few days, the lab became a hive of activity. Volunteers poured in, eager to contribute however they could. Some brought food and supplies, while others offered their skills as engineers or programmers. Among them was Alex Rivera, a wiry young man with a knack for hacking, and Mia Johnson, a fearless pilot who had once flown cargo ships across dangerous asteroid fields. Together, they formed the core of a ragtag team determined to defend Earth. As the days passed, tensions grew. Reports of alien fleets amassing near Earth's orbit began trickling in, each update more ominous than the last. Yet amid the fear, there was also determination. People worked tirelessly, fueled by the belief that surrender was not an option. One evening, as Ethan and Samantha reviewed blueprints late into the night, Alex burst into the lab, breathless and wide-eyed. "You're not going to believe this," he stammered, holding up a tablet displaying live footage of the sky. Dozens of alien ships were descending through the atmosphere, their sleek forms glinting ominously in the moonlight. "They're here," Maya said grimly, stepping forward with her arms crossed. "Time to see if all this hard work pays off." Ethan exchanged a glance with Samantha, then grabbed his prototype shield generator. "Let's show them what humanity's made of," he said, his voice brimming with resolve. The alien fleet descended like a swarm of metallic locusts, their ships casting eerie shadows over the Earth below. Commander Zorith, a towering reptilian general from the Krill Empire, stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the planet grow larger in the viewport. His cold, yellow eyes gleamed with anticipation. To him, humanity was nothing more than vermin, primitive creatures destined to serve the greater purpose of the galactic concord. They're panicking, one of his officers reported, pointing at data streaming across a holographic display. Their communications are chaotic. They have no idea how to respond. Zoreth let out a low, guttural chuckle. As expected, he said dismissively. They're weak, disorganized. This will be over quickly. But Zoreth's confidence would soon be tested. Beneath the surface of Earth, Ethan Brooks and his team raced to prepare for the inevitable attack. The energy shield generator sat mounted on the roof of a repurposed warehouse on the outskirts of Denver. It wasn't pretty. It looked like a jumble of wires and metal plates. But it was humanity's best chance at survival. "Ready?" Samantha asked, her voice tight with nerves as she adjusted the controls on a nearby console. Ethan nodded, gripping the railing around the rooftop. "As ready as we'll ever be," he replied. "Let's hope this thing works." Mia Johnson climbed into the cockpit of a retrofitted fighter jet parked nearby. Her hands moved deftly over the controls, running final checks before takeoff. Alex Rivera, meanwhile, crouched behind a bank of computers inside the warehouse, monitoring the shield generator's output while keeping an eye on the alien fleet's movements. The first wave of alien ships appeared on the horizon, their sleek forms slicing through the sky like knives. Energy beams lanced downward, striking buildings and sending plumes of smoke billowing into the air. Civilians screamed and scattered, seeking cover wherever they could find it. But instead of retreating, Ethan's team sprang into action. "Now," Ethan shouted, flipping the switch that activated the shield generator. A shimmering dome of blue light erupted around the warehouse and its surrounding area. Alien plasma bolts struck the barrier, fizzling out harmlessly. Zoreth's forces hesitated, clearly unprepared for such resistance. Their advanced weapons, designed to obliterate lesser civilizations, were useless against Ethan's makeshift invention. "This is impossible," Zoreth snarled, slamming a clawed fist onto the armrest of his command chair. "How are they countering our firepower?" His officers scrambled to analyze the situation, but before they could come up with an answer, Mina's jet roared overhead. She unleashed a barrage of missiles, targeting the nearest alien cruiser. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, debris raining down like fiery rain. Cheers erupted from the ground as other human pilots joined the fray, using guerrilla tactics to outmaneuver the slower, bulkier alien vessels. Inside the warehouse, Alex grinned as he watched the battle unfold on his screens. "We've got them on the ropes," he exclaimed. Samantha shook her head, her expression grim. "Don't celebrate yet," she warned. "This is just the beginning. They'll adapt." She was right. Within minutes, Zoreth regrouped his forces and launched a second wave of attacks. But by then, Ethan's team had already withdrawn, leaving behind only scorched earth and shattered alien pride. Though the victory was small, it sent a powerful message. Humanity would not go quietly into slavery. As the surviving alien ships retreated into orbit, Ethan stared at the smoldering battlefield, his chest heaving with exhaustion. "They'll be back," he said softly. "And next time, they won't underestimate us." Rachel Monroe, who had arrived at the scene to witness the aftermath, placed a hand on his shoulder. "You gave people hope today," she said firmly. "That's something they desperately needed." Ethan didn't respond. He simply nodded, his mind already racing ahead to what came next. In the days following the battle, Ethan and Samantha worked tirelessly to analyze the wreckage left behind by the retreating alien fleet. The destroyed ships were scattered across the desert, their twisted metal frames glinting under the blazing sun. It was dangerous work. Some of the alien technology was still active, sparking with unpredictable energy. But they knew it was worth the risk. Every piece of alien tech they salvaged brought them one step closer to understanding their enemy. "This is incredible," Samantha muttered as she pried open a panel on one of the downed cruisers. Inside, rows of intricate circuits pulsed faintly, glowing with an eerie green light. Their systems are so advanced, but not indestructible. Ethan knelt beside her, examining the exposed wiring. "We need to figure out how they operate," he said. "If we can reverse engineer their weapons or defenses, we might stand a real chance next time." Alex Rivera joined them, carrying a damaged alien device that looked like a cross between a weapon and a scanner. "Found this in the cockpit of one of the ships," he said, holding it up for inspection. "Think it's important." Samantha took the object from him, turning it over in her hands. Her eyes widened as she noticed faint symbols etched into its surface. "These markings, I've seen them before," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "They're part of the Concorde's communication protocols. If we can decode them, we might be able to tap into their network." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You mean spy on them?" "Exactly," Samantha replied. "And if we're lucky, we might even find something useful, like intel on their supply lines or weak points in their defenses." The team spent hours poring over the alien tech, piecing together fragments of information. As night fell, Samantha finally made a breakthrough. She connected the damaged device to her laptop, running a series of complex algorithms to decipher the alien code. Suddenly, a holographic map flickered to life above the screen, displaying star systems and routes marked in glowing lines. "This is their supply chain," Samantha explained, pointing to clusters of red dots scattered across the map. "These depots are where they stockpile resources and weapons. If we hit them hard enough, we could cripple their operations." Ethan leaned forward, studying the map intently. "There's one close to Earth," he said, tapping a location near Jupiter's orbit. "If we strike there, we can disrupt their plans and maybe buy ourselves some breathing room." Rachel Monroe arrived at the makeshift command center just as the team was finalizing their plan. She had been coordinating with President Olivia Grant to rally global support for the resistance, but when she heard about the depot, her eyes lit up with determination. "This could be our chance to show the galaxy that humanity isn't backing down," she said firmly. "But it's going to be dangerous." "We know," Ethan replied. "That's why we're taking volunteers only. No one gets forced into this." Mia Johnson stepped forward, her arms crossed. "Count me in," she said without hesitation. "I didn't dodge plasma bolts just to sit on the sidelines now." By dawn, the mission was set. A small strike team consisting of Ethan, Samantha, Mia, Alex, and a handful of skilled pilots prepared to infiltrate the alien supply depot. They loaded their ships with explosives and modified weapons, knowing that stealth would be their greatest ally. As they launched into space, the enormity of what they were about to do weighed heavily on everyone's minds. But despite the danger, there was a sense of purpose driving them forward. For the first time since the Concorde's betrayal, humanity had a real shot at fighting back, not just for survival, but for justice. When they reached the depot, it loomed ahead like a fortress, bristling with turrets and surrounded by smaller patrol ships. Ethan glanced at Mia, who gave him a confident nod. "Let's make them regret messing with us," she said, her voice steady. With that, the team sprang into action, slipping past the outer defenses and planting explosives deep within the structure. As the first detonations rocked the depot, alarms blared, and chaos erupted. The aliens scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The humans had already accomplished their mission. Back on Earth, news of the successful raid spread quickly, igniting a spark of hope across the planet. For the first time, humanity realized that the Concorde wasn't invincible. And somewhere in the depths of space, the Galactic Council began to feel the first tremors of fear. The destruction of the alien supply depot near Jupiter sent shockwaves through the Galactic Concorde. For the first time, the Council members found themselves questioning their assumptions about humanity. Reports poured in from Commander Zorath and his officers, detailing how a small group of humans had managed to infiltrate and sabotage one of their most critical outposts. The news was met with disbelief and growing unease. "They're more resourceful than we anticipated," admitted Vorthak, the insect-like leader of the Council, during an emergency meeting aboard the Elysium. His mandibles clicked nervously as he reviewed the damage reports. If they continue to adapt at this rate, they could become a serious threat. Zoreth, seething with anger, slammed his fist on the table. "This is unacceptable," he hissed. "We underestimated them once. It won't happen again." But even as the council debated their next move, humanity was already preparing its next strike. Back on Earth, Ethan Brooks stood in a dimly lit war room, surrounded by maps, schematics, and holographic projections of alien fleets. Samantha Lee worked quietly at a nearby console, analyzing data from the raid, while Alex Rivera monitored communications for any sign of retaliation. "We hit them where it hurt," Ethan said, addressing the team. "Now we need to keep the pressure on. If we can take out another key target, we'll force them onto the defensive." Rachel Monroe nodded, her expression grim but determined. "Every victory gives us more time to prepare, and more allies," she added. Since the raid, messages had begun pouring in from rebel factions across the galaxy. Oppressed worlds, long suffering under the Concord's rule, saw humanity's resistance as a beacon of hope. Some offered intelligence, while others promised aid in the form of weapons or ships. Samantha turned away from her console, holding up a datapad. "I've pinpointed another weak spot," she announced. "A larger armada is gathering near Saturn. If we can ambush them there, we might be able to cripple their advance fleet." Mia Johnson cracked a grin, adjusting the straps of her flight suit. "Sounds like fun," she said. "When do we leave?" "Soon," Ethan replied. "But this time, we won't just rely on stealth. We'll use everything we've learned so far, our modified weapons, stolen tech, and guerrilla tactics, to turn the tide." The plan came together quickly. Using alien designs reverse-engineered from the wreckage of previous battles, Earth's engineers had built faster, more agile fighters capable of matching the Concorde's ships. Pilots trained around the clock, mastering new maneuvers and strategies. Meanwhile, factories churned out ammunition and supplies, ensuring the fleet would be fully equipped for the fight ahead. When the day of the ambush arrived, tensions were high. Ethan led the charge, piloting one of the newly upgraded fighters alongside Mia and a squadron of volunteers. As they approached Saturn's rings, the shimmering ice particles provided perfect cover, masking their presence until the last possible moment. The alien fleet appeared on their scanners, massive and imposing. Dozens of cruisers formed a tight formation, clearly expecting no resistance. But as the human ships emerged from the shadows of the rings, all hell broke loose. "Fire at will," Ethan shouted over the comms. Missiles streaklet across the void, slamming into the alien vessels with devastating force. Caught off guard, the Concorde forces struggled to mount a counterattack. Human pilots darted between the larger ships, exploiting gaps in their defenses and targeting vulnerable spots. The battle raged fiercely, but the humans held their ground. On the bridge of his flagship, Zoreth watched in horror as his fleet faltered. "Retreat," he barked, his voice laced with fury. "Regroup and reinforce." By the time the aliens withdrew, several of their cruisers were nothing more than drifting debris. Humanity had won, not just a skirmish, but a decisive victory that proved they were a force to be reckoned with. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the triumph spread. President Olivia Grant addressed the world, praising the courage and ingenuity of those who had fought. But Ethan remained focused, knowing the war was far from over. Still, as he gazed at the stars, he allowed himself a small smile. For the first time, humanity wasn't just surviving. It was winning. The victories against the Galactic Concorde had come at a cost. Earth bore the scars of war, cities reduced to rubble, fields scorched black, and millions displaced from their homes. Despite the celebrations that followed each successful battle, the weight of loss hung heavy over humanity. Supplies were dwindling, and morale was beginning to crack under the strain. Even President Olivia Grant, who had always been a pillar of strength, found herself struggling to keep hope alive. In a quiet moment aboard the underground command center, Olivia sat alone in her office, staring at a map of Earth illuminated on the wall. The red zones marked areas devastated by alien attacks, while the green zones represented regions still holding out. There were far more red than green. Her hands trembled slightly as she sipped from a cup of cold coffee, her mind racing with doubts. Could humanity really win this war, or were they simply delaying the inevitable? Ethan Brooks and Samantha Lee were also feeling the pressure. In the lab, surrounded by half-finished prototypes and scattered blueprints, tensions between them reached a boiling point. Ethan paced back and forth, his boots clanging against the metal floor. "We can't keep playing defense," he said sharply. "Every time we hit them, they come back stronger. We need to strike hard and fast. Take the fight directly to their central hub." Samantha spun around in her chair, frustration etched across her face. "And what happens if we lose?" she shot back. "If we push too far and fail, we'll leave Earth completely exposed. Is that what you want?" "It's a risk we have to take," Ethan snapped. "Sitting here waiting for them to crush us isn't an option either." Their argument grew louder until Rachel Monroe stepped into the room, her presence immediately silencing both of them. "Enough," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "Fighting among ourselves won't get us anywhere. We're all tired, but we don't have the luxury of falling apart now." She turned to Ethan first. "You're right. We can't afford to be passive. But Samantha is right too. If we make a mistake, it could cost us everything." She paused, looking between them. "We need balance, a plan that hits them where it hurts but doesn't leave us vulnerable." After hours of heated discussion, they finally agreed on a compromise. They would launch targeted operations to weaken the Concorde's infrastructure without spreading their forces too thin. One such target was a heavily guarded research station orbiting Mars. Intelligence suggested it housed advanced weapons being developed specifically to counter human tactics. Mia Johnson volunteered to lead the mission, her usual bravado masking the exhaustion everyone felt. "I've seen worse odds," she said with a grin, though her eyes betrayed her fatigue. Alex Rivera accompanied her, tasked with hacking into the station's systems to extract valuable data before destroying it. The operation was risky, but executed with precision. Mia's squadron flew dangerously close to the sun's corona, using its radiation to mask their approach. Once inside, Alex worked quickly, downloading files while Mia kept enemy fighters at bay. When the explosives detonated, the station erupted in a fiery explosion visible even from Earth. Back home, the success brought a brief reprieve, but the toll of the war remained evident. Refugees crowded shelters, food shortages worsened, and whispers of dissent began to spread. Some questioned whether the resistance was worth the sacrifice. Others called for surrender, believing further fighting would only lead to extinction. President Olivia addressed the nation, her voice filled with both compassion and resolve. "We are paying a terrible price for our freedom," she admitted. "But I believe, with every fiber of my being, that giving up now would mean losing not just our lives, but our soul as a species." Her words resonated deeply with many, reigniting flickers of hope. Yet, as Ethan looked out over the ruins of a once thriving city, he couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest battles were yet to come. Late one night, as Ethan Brooks reviewed plans for the next mission, a sudden alert flashed across his screen. It was an encrypted message, marked urgent and addressed to him personally. Curious, he opened it, his eyes narrowing as he read the text. The sender claimed to represent a group called the Free Stars, a coalition of rebel worlds fighting against the Galactic Concorde. This could be a trap, Samantha warned when Ethan showed her the message. She leaned over his shoulder, her brow furrowed in thought. "We can't trust anyone who reaches out like this." Ethan nodded slowly, but something about the message felt genuine. "Maybe," he said. "But what if it's not? What if these rebels really want to help us?" The message included coordinates for a secret meeting point near Neptune's orbit. After some debate, Ethan decided to investigate, but only with a small team. He chose Mia Johnson to pilot their ship and Alex Rivera to monitor communications. Together, they set off into the cold reaches of space, unsure of what awaited them. When they arrived at the designated location, a cloaked vessel emerged from the shadows. Its sleek design looked nothing like the Concorde's ships, and its markings were unfamiliar. A voice crackled over the comms. "This is Commander Lyra Solis of the Free Stars. You've taken quite a risk coming here." Ethan exchanged a glance with Mia before responding. "So have you. How do we know you're not working for the Concorde?" A hatch opened on the vessel, revealing a tall woman with sharp features and piercing blue eyes. She introduced herself as Lyra Solis, a former officer in the Concorde's elite guard who had defected after realizing the Council's cruelty. Her story checked out. Alex confirmed her identity through stolen Concorde records, and she wasted no time explaining why she'd contacted Earth. "The Concorde fears your species more than any other," Lyra said bluntly. She gestured to a holographic display showing data about humanity's recent victories. "You adapt quickly, fight fiercely, and refuse to give up. That scares them. If you continue to win battles, their empire could collapse." Samantha frowned, skeptical. "Why should we trust you? What do you want from us?" Lyra met her gaze without flinching. "I want revenge. For the worlds they've destroyed, the lives they've ruined. I also want Earth's help in overthrowing the Council. With your ingenuity and our inside knowledge, we can bring them down together." Ethan considered her words carefully. Working with the Free Stars could give humanity a significant advantage. But it wasn't without risks. "If we join forces," he asked, "what's the plan?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Hit them where it hurts most. Their central hub. Nexus Prime is the heart of the Concorde's power. Take that out, and the Council will fall apart." The idea was bold and dangerous. Nexus Prime was heavily fortified, guarded by legions of ships and advanced defenses. But Lyra assured them she had allies within the station who could provide critical intel. With her help, humanity might stand a chance. Back on Earth, Ethan presented the proposal to President Olivia Grant and Rachel Monroe. Both women listened intently, weighing the pros and cons. Finally, Olivia spoke. "It's risky," she admitted. "But if Lyra is telling the truth, this could be our best shot at ending the war." Rachel added, "We need to move quickly. The longer we wait, the stronger the Concorde becomes." With the decision made, preparations began. Engineers worked around the clock to upgrade the fleet, while pilots trained for the grueling assault ahead. Knowing the stakes, everyone gave their all, driven by the hope of finally tipping the scales in humanity's favor. As Ethan stood aboard the bridge of his ship, staring at the stars, he felt a mix of fear and determination. They were about to gamble everything on a single desperate mission. But deep down, he believed it was worth it. For the first time, humanity wasn't just fighting to survive. It was fighting to change the galaxy forever. The assault on Nexus Prime began under the cover of darkness, or as close to darkness as space allowed. Ethan Brooks led the charge, his ship flanked by dozens of others piloted by Earth's finest fighters. Alongside them flew members of the Free Stars, their vessels blending seamlessly with humanity's fleet. Commander Lyra Solis had provided precise coordinates and timing, ensuring they would slip past the outer defenses undetected. As they approached the massive space station, its sheer size was overwhelming. Nexus Prime loomed ahead like a mechanical planet, bristling with weapons turrets and surrounded by a swarm of alien ships. The central hub of the Galactic Concorde, it housed not only the Council chambers, but also the core systems that controlled the entire empire. Destroying it would cripple the Concorde, but breaching its defenses seemed impossible. Mia Johnson's voice crackled over the comms. "Stay sharp," she warned. "We're entering the danger zone." Using cloaking technology stolen from the Concorde during earlier raids, the fleet slipped through gaps in the enemy's patrol patterns. Inside the station, chaos erupted as sabotage teams deployed. Alex Rivera hacked into internal systems, disabling security grids and rerouting power to create confusion. Meanwhile, Ground units led by Ethan fought their way toward the council chambers, battling waves of alien soldiers at every turn. Lyra proved invaluable, guiding the team through hidden corridors and secret passages known only to high-ranking officers. "This way," she urged, motioning for Ethan and his squad to follow her down a narrow hallway. They moved quickly, dodging blasts from pursuing guards. Samantha Lee worked tirelessly to disable Nexus Prime's core systems, knowing time was running out. Her hands flew across her console as alarms blared around her. "I've almost got it," she muttered, sweat dripping from her brow. With a final keystroke, she triggered a cascade of failures deep within the station's infrastructure. Lights flickered, gravity fluctuated, and communications went dead. Inside the council chambers, Daniel Carter confronted the remaining council members. The insect-like Vorthak and several other leaders stood frozen, their usual arrogance replaced by panic. "You made a mistake," Daniel said coldly, leveling a gun at them. "You thought we were weak. You thought you could crush us, but you underestimated humanity." Vorthak clicked his mandibles nervously. "Spare us," he pleaded. "We can negotiate." "There's nothing left to negotiate," Daniel interrupted. "Your empire is falling apart. Alliances are crumbling, and your own people are turning against you. This ends now." Outside, the battle raged on. Just as Ethan's team secured the council chambers, reinforcements arrived. Commander Zoreth, leading a fresh armada. Outnumbered and outgunned, the humans prepared for a last stand. "We're not going down without a fight," Ethan declared, gripping his weapon tightly. He glanced at Samantha, who nodded grimly. Together, they rallied what remained of their forces, ready to face whatever came next. But before the final confrontation could unfold, a new force entered the fray. Ships bearing the insignia of the Free Stars poured into the battlefield, turning the tide in humanity's favor. For the first time, the Concord's forces wavered, unsure how to respond to this unexpected alliance. Zoreth snarled in frustration, ordering a retreat. As his ships fled, Ethan allowed himself a moment of relief. But only briefly. There was still work to be done. Nexus Prime was crippled, but it wasn't destroyed yet. Humanity had won a crucial victory, but the war was far from over. The arrival of the Free Stars' reinforcements turned the tide of the battle, but it didn't end the fight. Commander Zoreth, unwilling to accept defeat, launched a desperate counterattack. His ships regrouped and charged back toward Nexus Prime, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. Ethan and his team found themselves surrounded inside the station, fighting off waves of alien soldiers while trying to complete their mission. "We can't hold them forever," Mia shouted over the comms as her fighter dodged enemy fire outside. Her voice was calm despite the chaos around her, but even she couldn't hide the strain in her tone. "You've got to finish this, Ethan." Inside the council chambers, Daniel Carter stood guard over the terrified council members. Rachel Monroe worked frantically to secure the room, setting up makeshift barricades with overturned tables and debris. The sound of plasma bolts striking the walls echoed through the chamber, growing louder as the aliens closed in. "Hurry, Samantha," Ethan called out, his voice tight with urgency. He fired his weapon down the hallway, holding back another squad of Concord troops. Behind him, Samantha crouched near the control panel, her fingers flying across the interface. She had almost finished disabling the station's core systems, but every second felt like an eternity. "I'm almost there," she replied, her voice trembling. A sudden explosion rocked the station, sending sparks raining down from the ceiling. Samantha shielded her face but kept working, her focus unwavering. Outside, the Free-Starred ships clashed fiercely with Zoreth's fleet. Lyra Solis led the charge, her vessel weaving through the battlefield with precision. "Keep pushing," she ordered her pilots. "We need to buy them more time." Back inside Nexus Prime, Ethan spotted Zoreth himself leading a group of elite guards toward the council chambers. The reptilian commander moved with terrifying speed, his claws glinting under the dim emergency lights. Ethan stepped forward to block his path, raising his weapon. "You're too late," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the odds. "Your empire is falling apart." Zoreth let out a guttural growl, his yellow eyes blazing with fury. "You think you've won. This is just the beginning, human. You'll regret ever crossing us." The two exchanged fire, their weapons lighting up the corridor in bursts of energy. Ethan dodged and rolled, narrowly avoiding Zoreth's strikes. For a moment, it seemed like the alien commander might overpower him. But then Maya's voice crackled over the comms. "Ethan, look out below." A section of the floor collapsed beneath Zoreth, sending him tumbling into the lower levels of the station. Ethan didn't have time to celebrate. He knew the alien commander wouldn't stay down for long. Finally, Samantha let out a triumphant shout. "It's done. The core is destabilized." She grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him toward the exit. "We've got minutes before this place blows." The team retreated quickly, racing through the crumbling corridors of Nexus Prime. Outside, their ship scrambled to escape the blast radius. As they reached the hangar bay, Lyra's voice came over the comms. "Get clear now. We're right behind you." With seconds to spare, Ethan's ship lifted off, joining the others in a hasty retreat. Behind them, Nexus Prime erupted in a massive explosion, its fiery shockwave illuminating the void of space. The central hub of the galactic Concord was gone. As the survivors regrouped aboard Lyra's flagship, the remaining council members begged for mercy. They offered to dismantle the Concord and grant Earth sovereignty if spared. Ethan hesitated, torn between vengeance and forgiveness. In the end, he chose mercy, not because they deserved it, but because destroying them would make humanity no better than the oppressors they had fought against. "We'll let the galaxy decide your fate," Ethan told the council members coldly. "But know this, humanity will never bow to tyranny again." Exhausted but victorious, the team watched as the wreckage of Nexus Prime drifted silently in the distance. They had struck a blow that would change the galaxy forever, and proven that even the smallest spark could ignite a revolution. The destruction of Nexus Prime sent shockwaves through the galaxy. News of the Concord's downfall spread quickly, carried by rebel factions and survivors fleeing the ruins of the once mighty empire. Oppressed worlds that had suffered under the Council's rule for centuries now saw a chance to reclaim their freedom. Messages of gratitude poured in from across the stars, thanking Earth for standing against tyranny and inspiring hope. On Earth, the mood shifted from despair to cautious optimism. Cities still bore the scars of war, but people began rebuilding with renewed determination. Factories reopened, farms sprang back to life, and children returned to schools. President Olivia Grant addressed the world one final time, her voice filled with pride and resolve. "We have endured unimaginable hardships," she said, standing before a crowd of cheering citizens. "But we have also shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of when united. This is not the end. It is a new beginning." Ethan Brooks stood beside Samantha Lee on a hill overlooking what remained of Denver. The city was far from fully recovered, but signs of progress were everywhere. Workers clearing rubble, engineers repairing damaged buildings, and families planting gardens in empty lots. Ethan sighed deeply, his shoulders relaxing for the first time in months. "Do you think it'll last?" he asked quietly. Samantha smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It has too," she replied. "We've given the galaxy a chance to start over. Whether they take it or not, that's up to them." Rachel Monroe joined them, holding a tablet displaying reports from newly liberated planets. "They're already forming a new alliance," she said, "a democratic federation where every species has a voice, including us." Her eyes sparkled with excitement. Earth will be a founding member. Nearby, Mia Johnson leaned against her fighter jet, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Alex Rivera sat cross-legged on the ground nearby, tinkering with a piece of alien tech salvaged from Nexus Prime. "You know," Maya said with a grin, I never thought I'd see the day when humans would be running around space like heroes. Alex chuckled, looking up from his work. Well, don't get too comfortable. There's still plenty of work to do. That night, celebrations erupted across the globe. Fireworks lit up the skies as people danced in the streets, singing songs of victory and resilience. In small towns and major cities alike, strangers embraced, sharing stories of survival and sacrifice. For the first time in years, laughter replaced fear. In the days that followed, representatives from Earth traveled to a neutral planet to help draft the charter for the new Federation. Daniel Carter led the delegation, speaking passionately about justice, equality, and cooperation. This isn't just about revenge or power, he told the assembly. It's about building something better for all of us. As the charter took shape, humanity's role in the galaxy became clear. No longer seen as primitive or expendable, Earth emerged as a respected and admired civilization. Its ingenuity, courage, and refusal to surrender inspired others to dream of a brighter future. Back home, Ethan found himself reflecting on everything they had been through. Standing on the rooftop of the lab where it had all begun, he gazed at the stars twinkling above. Samantha joined him after a while, leaning against the railing. "We did it," she said softly, her breath visible in the cool night air. "Yeah," Ethan replied, a small smile tugging at his lips. "And we're just getting started." The galaxy had changed forever because of humanity's defiance. From the ashes of war rose a promise that no matter how dark things seemed, hope could always light the way forward. And as long as there were those willing to fight for it, freedom would never truly die.